Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon, or good morning, I guess, depending on whereabouts in the world you are. Thanks for joining us today. I know there are some other events on elsewhere in the world that might be demanding some attention, so appreciate you being with us. My name is Peter Brimstone. I'm one of the international officers in the North America team at Queen's. So my job at the university is to just help students find out a little bit more about Queen's and how to get here and the type of options you might have. I'm joined today on the call by two of my colleagues, Gemma O'Donnell, who's there, and I'm sure we'll say hello.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Gemma O'Donnell, as Peter said, and I'm International Marketing and Communications Officer for the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. So good to have you with us today. Thank you. And
Professor Patrick McCall.
Hello, it's my very great pleasure to be here. My name is Patrick McCall. I'm a Professor of Marketing in the Management School, and I'm also Director of Internationalization for the Management School.
Thanks very much, guys. You can disappear again for a few minutes. So just to run you through some housekeeping before we get started, there is a chat box you can see there. Please feel free to say hello, introduce yourself, and also use that to ask any questions. We will be having a Q&A at the end where you can address questions to any of the panel, but feel free to ask questions as you go along, and it might be stuff that we're able to cover during the session. If you have any connection issues, sound or anything like that, just refresh your browser and it should bring you back through. If I end up having any connection issues, I might need to relaunch the room. You'll see a short delay and then we'll start back up again. But as I said, feel free to use that chat box. Gemma and others will be in there to answer questions as we go along. We will also be joined later in the presentation by one of our very recent graduates who has just graduated in December, who's from Canada and has just finished an MBA at Queen's. So we're very excited to have her along as well. So without further ado, I'm going to play a short video introducing you to Queen's and to Northern Ireland, and then we'll get underway.
Studying abroad was a really big priority for me. I love traveling, and I specifically wanted to come to Ireland. Being able to come to Queen's, I was able to go to a really world-class university, which was such a privilege.
So I was looking for a study abroad experience that wasn't in a major tourist attraction, meet more locals and become more a part of the scene of Belfast.
Having a class with students from Europe and from Africa and from Asia and from America all in the same classroom and having those discussions, it's important to broaden your horizons.
I love meeting new people. That's one of the best things about this.
The school is so international. You're sitting in classes with people who are talking about socialism, who have lived under socialist systems, and you get so much more of a fuller understanding. It's not just rhetoric, and that was very important to me, that I could learn about politics on a global stage.
I think I was really able to take advantage of the fact that Queen's has a huge diversity of courses that are offered, and they allowed me as an international student to pick and choose what I thought would be interesting to me.
It's exciting because you have lecturers who are passionate about what they're teaching. They're always really helpful. They were excited for my arrival, and that made me feel welcomed and excited to take the classes.
Belfast is a really cool city. There's lots of places to explore, as well as the Titanic Museum, which I've gone to. Like every Sunday, pretty much, we've gone to St. George's Market, which is really great to explore.
I love going down to the Botanic Gardens when it's sunny and just people watching and seeing all of the families come out. You feel like you're a part of a community that isn't just students.
I liked studying in Belfast because it's a smaller city. I thought that I could manage it more. I wanted somewhere that I could walk around on foot and could explore the city on my own.
When I came over and went to Freshers Fair for the first time, I was overwhelmed by the amount of clubs that there are here. Because this is a school with a grad school, you can be in social situations with master students and PhD students. So you get to see that kind of this is where I could be.
Before I'd ever been to Ireland, I sort of had an idea of what I thought it was going to look like based on pictures and postcards. And part of me was like, there's no way it can actually look like that. It's totally romanticized. And then I got here, and it was 10 times more majestic than that, 10 times greener. I live in Elms Village, and I live there in a flat with 10 other people, and they were so welcoming to me.
The very first week I was here, we got matched with an international buddy, which was awesome.
They paired us up with current Queen's students, and I ended up getting along great with the girl they paired me with. the fact that Queen facilitated that and like helped me get connected with her was so great.
I've been able to learn so much about myself, being away from home and being away from my usual environment. When I came here, within a couple of weeks, I was like, this is the educational environment I'm looking for. So that sparked the whole process of trying to become a real Queen's student.
It's a great community here at Queen's, and everyone is welcoming and want to hear and is excited for you to be a part of the conversation, whatever you may bring.
Study abroad really just throws you into a whole different way of living, both with academics and with your time outside of class. I would definitely recommend coming to Queen's. Everyone in Belfast has been so welcoming to me. It's been just overall a really great learning experience.
So that hopefully will just give you a little overview. I'm going to talk through some general information about our part of the world, about the university, and then Professor McCall will come on to talk about our management school. Just one last housekeeping point for you. As I said, the chat box is there. Do feel free to throw in any questions that you want, and we will have those addressed to both students and our panel. Just to give you an overview then of Northern Ireland, we are, I'm sure your geography is wonderful, but geographically we are part of the island of Ireland. So you can see us there with a little black bit stuck on the top of regular Ireland, I guess. But politically, economically, however else you want to phrase it, we are part of the United Kingdom. What that means is for you is a little bit of a best of both worlds situation, I guess. The culture and the welcome and the people of Ireland are famous around the world, but so too is the standard of education within the United Kingdom, and we sit in a wonderful in-between world. If you are interested in politics, of course, it is a fascinating place to be, and indeed with business and our new relationship with the European Union. It's a fantastic place that is very accessible in normal times for travel. You're looking at about a 90-minute drive down to Dublin, about an hour's flight to London or any other major UK city, and direct flights into both the two airports in Belfast and also a major international airport in Dublin from pretty much anywhere in the world. Belfast itself then is the capital city, and we're located about a 10-minute walk from the very centre of the city. It is the UK's most affordable student city. You're looking at about 60% lower living costs than London, probably about 50% of that in places like Edinburgh. So cost of living is very, very affordable. Quality of life is very high. It's officially the UK's safest city, and it is a young people's city. 46% of the population of Belfast are under 30. So it's very much a city that is set up for both students and young professionals. A lot of the industry in the city reflects that as well. The university itself, Queen's, has been around for quite a while. We've just celebrated our 175th birthday just before Christmas. We were founded in 1845, which makes us the 9th oldest university in the UK. We have about 25,000 students in total. Of those, around 3,000 are international students, which is about 11–12% of the population. We have big cohorts from China and India, but also from the USA and Canada, where we welcome around 300 students a year to Queen's at both undergraduate and graduate level. We have a student to staff ratio of 15:1. Our focus very much is on small class sizes, and the relationship you would have with the academic staff is very much reflected within that. We are part of the Russell Group. If you are familiar with the Russell Group, you'll know it is a group of research-intensive universities. You'll see some pretty familiar names in there, the likes of Oxford and Cambridge and a few others. Queen's is part of this group, and these are 24 universities who are dedicated to research-led and research-informed teaching. So that is, in layman's terms, about creating new knowledge as well as teaching it. A few quick interesting facts about the university. Our Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton is the university's Chancellor. The Clintons have a long history with Northern Ireland and the work they did in peace building in this part of the world, and we're very proud that Secretary Clinton agreed to come on and be our Chancellor last year. She couldn't be here today because unfortunately she is busy at the inauguration of the new president, but she might be around some other time. We have turned out a couple of Nobel Prize winners and have been awarded 7 Queen's Anniversary Prizes, which are prizes given to us for our work in the community. We very much see ourselves as a civic university trying to give back to the city and to the country that we are a part of. We've turned out plenty of notable alumni, and there's a few interesting facts there. My favourite being that Queen's had female deans in post before Oxford ever admitted a female student. In terms of programme structure there at graduate school at Queen's, the vast majority of our master's programmes are one-year programmes taught across 3 main semesters. Well, teaching is in 2 semesters and research is generally in 1, but I'll let my academic colleagues brief you on that. Our PhD programmes, typically 3-year minimum for a PhD, and that is very much an individual programme of research with a much reduced taught element. The application process is very straightforward, particularly if you might have had to go through the process of applying to grad school in the US or Canada. You apply directly on the Queen's website. There is no application fee. Just apply on the website. It's free. It's quite easy. In terms of the entry requirements, and there may be a little bit of variation between programs, but typically you're looking at a combined cumulative GPA of 3.2 out of 4 in a relevant undergraduate major. And there will be some specific asks for different subjects, but that is generally the ballpark figure you're looking for. We require just documentation from you at the application stage. So you're looking at transcripts and certificates from your undergraduate education to date. Contact details of 2 references. So we don't require full letters of reference. There is no requirement, for the most part, for a statement of purpose or an essay. There is no requirement for a GRE or an admissions test. Some programs will ask for a written supplement, but details will be given on the application form at the point of applying. For a PhD, you do require a 4-year bachelor's degree and a master's degree and a research proposal. But if anybody needs more details about that process, they can just ask. In terms of the decision process, typically for our master's programs or postgraduate taught programs, you would look to receive a response, so either an offer or otherwise within 3 to 4 weeks. Kind of pre-COVID, that was about 2 weeks, but things are a little bit busy and it's a little more complicated to do it from home. So we're looking at about 3-4 week turnaround on those. If you've applied and you find yourself waiting a bit longer, do let us know. We'd be happy to look into it. The process, again, is very straightforward. You'll have applied through the portal, you will get notified through the portal and by email. So it's all done in-house by Queen's. There are 2 types of offers you're likely to see. One is what we call a conditional offer, and that will be an offer letter telling you that you have a place at Queen's subject to a number of conditions. Typically those will be finishing your degree studies, your undergraduate studies if you haven't already, and meeting the required GPA. If you have already graduated, it's more likely you will get what we call an unconditional offer, and that is just your place straight up guaranteed, ready whenever you want it. Little bit about our campus in brief to build on what you saw in the video. Queen's has spent quite a lot in the last 10 years, over £700 million, which is somewhere north of $1 billion US and roughly around $1.5 billion Canadian dollars. Exchange rates may vary. This has been to bring the facilities up in line with the world-class standard of our teaching, and has resulted in things like the Macleay Library, which is a fantastic space for students to use, to study, to research. One real cultural difference between, I guess, Northern Ireland and North America is the use of the library for your books, as opposed to having to go out and spend a few $1,000s on them, and having that research space and the dedicated professionals that work within it. But other facilities such as our law school, computer science building, our new student union that will open next September, just in time. We have student housing on campus. It is guaranteed for every international student, should you want it. You don't have to live with us, but the rooms are all fantastic standard. It is all private rooms. It is mostly ensuite bathrooms as well. And they're typically a 5 to 15 minute walk from campus, either in the city centre or out in the leafy suburbs of South Belfast. But those options are there. You're guaranteed a room, and the price is pretty good and is inclusive of things like your internet, your heating, your utilities, and so on. Student life also is excellent at Queen's. I won't talk about this too much. It's something I'd rather you chatted to our actual students about. rather than me pretending, because my student days are getting a little bit further in the rearview mirror as time goes on. But we have over 200 student societies at Queen's for every interest group, and these are things like your, it could be your Dungeons and Dragons or your vegetarian food group, whatever, but also the professional groups like the legal society or whatever it may be. So those are there. Huge international student support provision at Queen's as well, helping you through things like visa applications, accessing healthcare when you're in the country, and all those kinds of things. And we are also one of the premier sporting institutions in the UK. If sport is something you're interested in, it's much easier to balance playing sport and studying at Queen's than you might have found in the US or Canada before. That is pretty much it from me. That was a whistle-stop tour of the university as a whole. I'm more than happy to answer any questions about admissions processes, all of that kind of thing. But without any further ado, I would like to ask Professor McCall to pop back on the line and take the reins. If you're still there in the background, Patrick, there you are.
Great, Peter. Thank you very much. That was brilliant. A great overview there of our university, a university that we are particularly proud of. And it's, of course, a great pleasure to be here talking to you today and on this historic occasion. So let me talk to you about the management school, and I will give you an overview of our school, and then we can pick up on any questions then towards the end. But of course, by all means, please feel free to type your question in the chat function as we progress. So why might you consider Queen's Management School? Well, you know a lot about the university as a whole now, and we're of course an integral part of the university. We have our own dedicated site. We are located at what's called Riddle Hall, which is about a 10-minute walk away from the main campus that you saw featured in the video that Peter showed at the start of today's presentation. We as a school have grown significantly over the last number of years. For example, we're ranked in the top 200 in the world for business and economics, according to the most recent times higher education world university rankings, and we continue to grow in those rankings and indeed have aspirations to continue to do so. We're ranked top 10 in the UK for our accounting and finance degree programs, according to the most recent Times and Sunday Times Good University Guide. We're very proud of the fact that we have, at the very core of what we do, industry engagement. And I'll talk a little bit later about some of the unique services that we have in our school that are there to serve our students' needs, not least the dedicated placement office that we have, and the many, many master classes that we have from industry experts. Belfast is a very small city in comparative terms. Approximately 650,000 people live in the city. But we have a very interesting and rich hinterland where we have some of the most well-known multinationals on our doorstep. And we have a phenomenal relationship with those multinationals. Indeed, it's in part because of our reputation that those MNEs have chosen to come to Belfast. So, for example, masterclasses that we've had in the recent past might include masterclasses from colleagues at Liberty Mutual, Citi, CME Group, Allstate, Capita, Almac, Terex, Seagate, and so on and so forth. We have these spread across our subject groups, and I'll talk about the various subject groups we have in a second. We're also one of a very small number of UK universities to have a trading room, and attached to that is a student managed fund. Again, I'm only going to introduce it at this stage, but suffice to say that we have 12 terminals, all linked to Bloomberg, and we use almost real-time data for our students to understand market dynamics, risk assessment, stock trading, and so on and so forth. So we pride ourselves in industry engagement, we pride ourselves in theory and practice, and we pride ourselves in getting our students ready for the hyper-competitive world that now exists beyond our walls. This is another image of Riddle Hall, and as you will have heard me say in the last slide, Riddle Hall is our dedicated site, the home of Queen's Management School, if you like, approximately a 10-minute walk away from the main site. Peter has told you about the significant capital investment that we've made in our university as a whole. But just for your information, to the right of this picture at Riddle Hall, we are investing in a brand new 6,500 square metre building that is an addition to all of the world-beating facilities we have at Queen's Management School. As a team, we've went around all best business schools in the world. We've looked at some of the resources that we have, and we have built on those to provide a unique and wonderful learning experience on site at Queen's Management School. Our school is broken up into 4 main subject areas. So some business schools around the world would have separate schools for different functions associated with business management studies. But our school, Queen's Management School, within our organisation, we have 4 what we call main subject areas. And those 4 main subject areas are, and as you may see from this slide, accounting, economics, finance, and management. Now, of course, we have a suite of programs at undergraduate level as well, centered around these 4 main subject groups. But the focus of today's talk is at graduate level, postgraduate taught level. And you can see a range of courses that we have down the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you will also see that we offer PhDs in the same 4 subject areas. Our postgraduate taught programs typically include 1 full calendar year, that's 3 full semesters, and our PhD programs typically last a minimum of 3-year full-time. I'm not going to go into the specifics of each program at this stage, but I'm more than happy to take questions on the specific programs at the end, and if we need to have a smaller meeting after this to focus on a program in more detail, then I'm sure we can facilitate that also. Of course, we understand that we are one of the best universities in the UK, and with that comes a great responsibility to give the highest quality academic experience. So academic excellence is at the root of absolutely everything that we do, and you can see that being merged really in some of the global rankings that I talked about recently. For information, we are currently going through EQUIS accreditation, and we have a strategic plan to have Triple Crown accreditation, ACSB and AMBA, within the next 3 to 5 years. So we have very global ambitions to become one of the standout business management schools in the world. So we pride ourselves, of course, on academic excellence, also real-world experience, and the blend of academic excellence and real-world experience allows us to have a lovely blend of theory and practice in the classroom in absolutely everything that we do. To complement that, we focus on industry and business engagement, so to give our students a competitive advantage, that competitive edge when they are seeking employment in the marketplace. And to that end, employability is key. And indeed, we're very proud of some of the statistics we have around graduate employment in our programs. And of course, we recognize that coming from afar to a new country, to a new place, to a new university, you will have lots of needs over and above settling into academic life. And we are very proud of the fact that we have invested very heavily in the pastoral support for our international students. And I'll briefly mention some of the services that we offer in that regard. So to add some evidence, I guess, to what I have just said, academic excellence, for example, is reflected in our academic staff. We all have PhDs from very prestigious universities, and many of my colleagues hold or have held visiting positions, for example, Bank of England, Cornell, Harvard, to name but a few. Our current head of school, Professor Turner, is receiving quite a lot of attention in the media for his newly published book on boom and bubbles. And indeed, John was a fellow at Harvard and more recently spent part of his sabbatical there. So we have got very strong links with some of the very best universities in the North American region. The trading room, we're incredibly proud of that. 12 Bloomberg terminals, and our students, regardless of the subject areas that they are studying, be it accounting, economics, finance, or management, they all have access to this resource throughout their course. Again, to give students that competitive edge and to put theory into practice. And we have the student managed fund, which allows students to meet each week, again, drawn from across the 4 main subject areas to determine investments using real cash that has been donated to us from local enterprises. And students make decisions on how we're going to invest this real cash. Now, all profit that we made are plowed back into the student managed fund so that we continue to provide more and more access to Bloomberg and the like. Of course, the students take control of this. They are supervised by academic staff, but the students essentially assume the position of Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Executive Officer, Chief Technology Officer, and so on and so forth in order to make decisions. And again, this is aimed at developing skills, gaining practical experience, enhancing career opportunities. And we have many, many examples of students being able to leverage this experience in interview scenarios. And indeed, you will see at the very end of this presentation some of our notable alumni who, as a result of this experience and the wider experience at Queen's Management School, now are in exceptionally good jobs around the world. Business engagement. Again, here we have Honorary Professor Declan Kelly, an Irish-American philanthropist who also owns a strategic management consulting company in New York City. And with his connections, we have set up the Ateneo annual lectures facilitated by Professor Kelly. He is just but one of regular guest speakers and events that we have at Queen's, and he also facilitates, along with our other alumni network, annual prize giving for our students. We celebrate success of our students at annual events. Declan has a wide network of contacts, as I've said, so previous speakers that we have hosted through business engagement webinars, seminars, masterclasses include the very well-known Irish billionaire, Denis O'Brien, who comes on a regular basis not only to speak about his successes, but his failures and what he might have done differently given different circumstances. Truly wonderful learning experiences for our students and staff. We have Manus Cranny from Bloomberg popping in to take seminars and workshops and tutorials for our students right across our main subject groups. And also we had the Director of Financial Stability very recently from the Bank of England come in and give guest talk to our faculty and students on the very recent implications of Brexit on the UK, Northern Ireland, for example. We've also very recently launched the Good Business podcast series, and they're a series of academics and course, some of our regular guest speakers will talk about very contemporary issues, for example, ethics, human rights and sustainability in the workplace, the ethics of data, the importance of renewables, mental health in the workplace, a range of very important contemporary issues that are freely available actually from the Good Business broadcasts available on our webpage. So a host of very engaging and interactive sessions to truly, again, give our students the very best opportunities possible. We have a dedicated placement service in our school who are there to serve our students on pathways that have a placement option. At postgraduate level, at graduate level, we also have a number of opportunities there where students can spend semester 3 partaking in a internship opportunity with one of the firms that, for example, may be listed here and who are located in our hinterland. Not necessarily perhaps in Belfast, but wider afield as well. Now, there is a learning contract in place, of course, and we work very closely with the placement office and the company to make sure that the learning contract is carried out throughout your study, and it is, of course, tied to your training and your skills that are required as part of your degree. The graphic that we have on this slide simply serves to illustrate some of the well-established relationships we have with some very, very well-known companies. Our placement team also is there to run a series of events and fairs to help you find that internship opportunity for semester 3 studies, and of course to help you prepare for the form of CV writing, interview skills, and so on and so forth. And we recognize that coming from afar to a new city, to a new university, takes a little bit of readjusting. So I've talked a lot about the academic dimension of what we do at Queen's Management School, but we also have a dedicated Queen's Management School International Centre housed within Riddle Hall. And there we have a team of exceptionally wonderful and talented people to provide support in relation to academic skills, social aspects of interaction, and indeed perhaps even managing the emotional impact of studying and living in a different region of the world. And these international student advisors become a key point of contact for all aspects of the international student and learning experience. And they are there to offer specialized support, skill enhancement, and absolutely contribute to the overall student experience. Our international student advisors are there again to help with regards to a range of issues, be it how do I register for the local doctor, what's to do on a Saturday, where can I, for example, purchase this type of food, religious services, if you're having problems with finding accommodation, if you're having problems with, for example, a range of issues. We are there to help in all regards. And of course, to come to a conclusion, it would be remiss of me not to mention we have close links with executive education in the form of our William J. Clinton Leadership Institute, housed at, again, Riddle Hall. And of course, I'm hoping you will recognize the graphic, Michel Barnier, who came very recently to talk about the implications of the deal between Northern Ireland, the UK, and the Republic of Ireland, and the implications associated with that for trade and investment and mobility. Again, just another example of the very high profile, high caliber range of speakers that we have coming to engage with our community at Queen's Management School. And of course, as being a student at Queen's, being a graduate school student at Queen's, you have access to our exceptionally beautiful graduate school. You can see the inside of our graduate school there in the image, and the graduate school acts, if you like, as a hub to connect students across all disciplines, not just the management school, but across all our pathways, all our faculties. It's a hub where our graduate students can meet, to talk, and to engage in mentorship programs, leadership events, extra employer talks over and above what's provided in Queen's Management School. And also as part of that, there's a whole host of free programs that you can avail of for personal and professional development. You can really make your mark at Queen's Management School, and we are #1 for spin-outs, for KTPs. We have an incredible fabric of entrepreneurial activity within our university. And yesterday it was announced that we are again #1 in the UK for entrepreneurial impact, ahead of Cambridge, Cardiff, Queen Mary University, and new in the top 5 this year, the University of Dundee in Scotland. So being #1 in terms of innovation, entrepreneurship, is something that we don't plan on giving up on soon. So if you have that business idea that you've always wanted to test, if you have an idea that's almost ready to launch, we have the mechanisms, the facilities, the resources, the networks available within our school and within the wider university community to help you realize those ambitions. We have Ashley hopefully joining us very soon, and Ashley will give a student-centered view of her time at Queen's as an MBA student. But moving forward, we have Jessica, who has very kindly also given us a testimonial, and again, it's on slide there for you to see. And as I've said, as a result of all of the experiences, as a result of all the opportunities that we provide through the management school, we have some very notable alumni. So that concludes my my very brief overview of the school. I appreciate it was a very fast whistle-stop tour again of Queen's Management School and of what we do. But again, I'm more than happy to take questions at the end. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening.
Patrick, thank you very much. I think you may not be able to hear me, possibly, but I think everybody else can. So that's all right. Ashley has just appeared in the background, so I'm just going to run through a few final slides. There's Ashley. Hi, Ashley. I'm just going to run through a few final slides, and then we'll get to the Q&A. And apologies again for those technical issues. It literally happens 100% of the time. But that is the dilemma of virtual life these days. I should have noted at the start as well, actually, all of these slides will be shared after the session, as well as a recording of the session. So apologies if you've been furiously scribbling down notes. We will send the slides around so you can go through them in your own time. Little thing about fees, so the nitty-gritty stuff. Fees for the majority of our master's programs within Queen's Management School are sitting at £20,500. So that is British pounds sterling. Our fee rates are tied to our programs, not tied to credits. So that is the cost. It won't kind of vary. You'll not be asked to stay on for an extra semester and try and make up extra credits or things like that, which may be more a feature of some of the education systems in North America. The MBA is slightly more expensive. You're looking at £25,000 as the base price. Hopefully offsetting that cost a little bit is the cost of living, which I mentioned earlier. Belfast, lowest cost living out of any of the major UK cities, and with the lowest cost region in the UK as well. And you can see some comparisons to the likes of London and Edinburgh in the UK, and Dublin in the Republic of Ireland. And that's just kind of an average housing cost. There is some funding available though. New for 2021 is the Queen's Management School North America Scholarship. So there will be 7 awards, £5,000 each, given to students who are residents of the US or Canada. There is a stipulation of having a minimum GPA of 3.5 or above, or the equivalent if your grading system is slightly different. You are required to submit a CV or resume. Applications are online. I'll share the link in the chat shortly. There are some other scholarships you can avail of, things like our early bird discount, which can get you a 10% discount if you're able to pay your fees in full before the end of June. Things like family scholarships and alumni scholarships if you have studied at Queen's before or have family members who have. And then the Vice Chancellor's Award, which is a competitive 50% fee reduction award, which requires a video submission. Queen's is also registered with both US and Canadian federal loans. For the US, it's FAFSA. For Canada, it's individual provincial loans. So if you want to use loans to support the cost of studying at Queen's, you can do that. And we do also have athletic scholarships if you are a talented student athlete. There is an example there on the screen of what that might actually end up looking at. So while you have this headline fee of $20,500, if you're successful in obtaining the North America Scholarship, and you're able to pay up in front to get the early bird reward, you actually could be looking at a fee closer to about £14,000. And again, it's only a 1-year master's program. So considering our stature in the world and where we are in the 1-year program, it's not a bad deal. One of our current scholars, just by way of example, is this chap called Wyatt Page, who hails from Pennsylvania and did his undergraduate studies at Juniata College. He's currently studying for a master's in quantitative finance. Wyatt is actually here on a Queen's Academy scholarship playing soccer, and balances his time doing that, studying, and is currently managing the student managed fund that Professor McCall mentioned earlier. And I'm sure Wyatt would be happy to chat to anybody about his experience, but there's a little lovely quote from him there. That is going to do us in terms of the slides. You will, I'm sure, no doubt, be glad to hear. And what we will do now is move to the Q&A. But first, I would like to introduce Ashley, who appeared there just on time when Patrick was finished. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you absolutely fine. Do you just want to give a very quick introduction for yourself, Ashley, about what you did when you're at Queen's, how you managed to end up in Belfast, and anything else you feel is important?
Sure, yeah. So I'm from Toronto, Canada, and the decision to come to Queen's was it was actually a last-minute decision. I was working for about 12 years, and I knew that I wanted to go back to school, and I really wanted to have an international experience and do something different. So having visited the UK a few times, I was looking at schools in the UK and then also looking at schools in Ireland. And I don't think I had really knew anything about Belfast. I came across Queen's, and it was just this really beautiful mix of things that I was looking for. So the school has a lot of history. The buildings are beautiful, so the campus was really stunning. And a really important thing as an international student was the expense. So it was really attractive that I could do an MBA for a really competitive price point, but also a really good program. And the cost of living in Belfast and the city itself was very attractive. So I applied. I think I applied in late July and ended up moving over about 8 weeks later. So it happened quite quickly. And I think I was really attracted to the MBA program specifically. I just graduated in December, so just a few weeks ago, because there's MBA programs all over the world, and a lot of the curriculum is very similar. They have a lot of same foundational things, but the program here is very small, very hands-on and experiential, and Belfast specifically has so many resources for entrepreneurs. So students who may not think they want to start a business. There's so much support and encouragement and funding for students here. So I came and I got really involved in the outside community of Queen's, but also at Queen's itself. Sorry, I feel like I'm going on.
No, this is wonderful. Like, I'm interested. I guess I mean, like, I have a couple of questions for you, and then I'm sure there'll be some that come in from people who are on the line. How did you find the application process? You said obviously you applied quite late on, which I'm sure probably felt daunting at the time. But how did you find the whole thing?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people who help you along the way. So applying to be an international student, there's a lot to think about, right? There's applying to school in the UK, and then there's applying for the visa process as well. So I would say that it is a bit of a longer process than applying in your own country, but there's a lot of information and help, and especially at Queen's, they have the international student advisors that really help you. They were super responsive with my emails. The faculty and staff in my program were really responsive. So yeah, I think just with all the resources out there, it went very smoothly, it went very quick, and I was just really happy that I made it work in a short time frame.
Super. You would almost think we had planned that answer, but that was wonderful. I guess just, I mean, like, you came on just after you had appeared on a slide, possibly not to your own knowledge, and there's a couple of things on there that sort of piqued my interest. It was mentioned you participated in the Dragon's Den at Queen, which I think is called the Shark Tank in North America. Possibly, it's definitely called Shark Tank in the USA, which is a terrible name for it. Dragon's Den is much better. And also the Innovator Entrepreneurship Program. Would you mind telling me a little bit about those?
Sure, yeah. So it actually started, there's a contest at Queen's early in September, and it's called What's the Big Idea Contest. And it's really just an ideas contest for students. So if you have an idea that you think could be a business, they encourage you to submit your ideas. And so I just thought, oh, well, you know, why not? So I submitted an idea. You don't have to have a business plan. You just truly just say, here's something creative I've thought of. And I ended up winning the award for best idea from an international student. That came with a monetary prize as well. And that was really encouraging. And then they said, you should apply for the Queen's Dragon's Den, which of course is a much larger contest later in the year. So it involves a larger application, but you actually get to pitch your idea in front of a panel of business experts from Belfast. It's really exciting. And so you have an opportunity to win a larger prize money. You get to attend a workshop on how to pitch your ideas. Like, if you asked me a year ago, would you stand in front of a panel of people and pitch your business ideas? I never thought I could do it, but being a student and getting all that support is so invaluable. And so I actually now talk about that experience in job interviews, because when someone says, oh, how are your presentation skills, you can speak to things like that. And so I also participated in a female entrepreneurship program called Innovate Her, which was incredible. So it's an all-female program. I believe it lasted 5 months. So every Wednesday we would do workshops. We got to visit a bunch of employers around Belfast, do networking, and then ultimately develop a business idea and again pitch it to a panel of investors, and with the possibility to win prizes. So I just don't know of any opportunity like that at any other school. There's just so much support and encouragement for students who want to start something for themselves.
Super. I mean, like, what I find fascinating about that is that's all stuff that actually isn't even part of the course. So you came to kind of do an MBA, and then there's just all this happening, which makes me feel a little bit bad about how I spent my spare time at university. We'll not get into that. I guess another question that has come in is, like, what have you found, I guess, to be the biggest difference between studying in Northern Ireland and then, I guess, your undergraduate studies, which I will assume were in Canada?
That's a good question. I think just ensuring I use UK English was one thing. UK spelling was a quick learning experience. I think the grading system is different. So just learning when I get assessments back or how long things might take to get feedback on. It's just a different system, but nothing unusual. So we did have an orientation week where these things were explained. And there's also the international student orientation that starts even earlier. So I feel like there wasn't a huge cultural difference. I think being an English speaker from North America, you're at a huge advantage because you can, you're comfortable right away. So I wouldn't say there was any immediate difficulties. I think some of the case studies we did in school, they focus on UK companies, but that's a great learning opportunity. And so maybe even if I'm not familiar with the company, that's just an opportunity to grow my skill set a bit more.
Super. It does help that we kind of speak the same language. Maybe it takes a little bit of time to get used to it, but it's close. It's close.
It's close.
And then I guess just the killer question is, any advice for students who are thinking about applying to Queen's?
Yeah, I would say it's, especially when you're an international student, it's so hard because you think, you can look at the website, you can attend webinars, but you really just don't know what it's going to be like once you get there. And especially with COVID, students may not be able to visit the campus in person. So I would just assure you that Queen's is like a beautiful, amazing place. Like Belfast is such an interesting, dynamic city, and you can't go wrong. So really, like, school is what you make of it. And I think you were mentioning I was involved in a lot outside of the classroom. And I think Belfast really is a supportive community. People are so kind. And now I feel like I'm getting off track with your question. But I would it's a great school, and it's very, very well regarded here. So when you tell people, I go to Queen's, people are like, oh, that's amazing. It's really educationally very strong. And it was a really nice opportunity for me just to have a cultural immersion experience. So yeah, I would say go for it. You have nothing to lose. Apply, and then you keep all your options open. But I think Belfast for me was perfect to come to Queen's. The city is manageable. It's exciting. You're at a travel gateway to Europe. The fact that you can jump on a train and be in Dublin in 2 hours, there's a lot of opportunity here for an international experience, but also to get a good education.
Super. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you to stay on the line in case any more questions pop up. There are a couple of questions in the chat box that I think I should probably answer, so I'm going to grab those ones for now. There was a question there, if there's PhD research grants available for international students. There is the short answer. Gemma, my colleague, has shared a link in the chat there, and we can share more information when we follow up on this session. But there is sort of a constant cycle of research grants coming out. They are open. Some are open only to domestic students, some are open to international students, but the website will allow you to filter for that. And there is funding. It tends to be tied to individual projects, and Professor McCall may want to chip in on that because the academic side of the house might be more familiar to him. But absolutely there is funding available, and there are some of the university scholarships that are available at the postgraduate research level as well. There's another question about if having dual citizenship of both Canada and the United Kingdom would affect your application process. It doesn't affect the application process itself, so that is the same for international and domestic students. What it does mean, though, is that you don't need to get a visa, which I'm sure Ashley can attest to is probably a headache saved, not having to apply for a student visa. And that obviously means things like working rights, the right to stay in the country when you graduate, and all of that is guaranteed because you've got a UK passport that you can wave around. So it doesn't affect the application process itself, but it certainly will make some steps of the journey a little bit more straightforward. And here's a great question. What gives you as hosts the confidence to encourage us to choose Queen's in particular? I mean, like, we obviously are coming from a position of heavy bias, the fact we're all from this part of the world. So we love it here. I personally moved away. I studied out of the country, and I've worked in the Middle East, I've worked in the US, I've been around the place, and chose to come back because of the quality of life here. And that hopefully is reflected in what I have to say, which is that it's a great place to live. It genuinely is. Belfast is a city for me that is the right size. If you're someone who prefers a huge sprawling metropolitan, I would call it a nightmare, but that's me because I couldn't live in London. I don't think I could live in New York. It would be a bit loud for me. But Belfast is a city where there's so much going on, but you can walk everywhere. It's great. It's easy to get around. It's cheap to live in. In terms of Queen's as an institution, hopefully what we've said kind of speaks for itself. The academic staff are wonderful. They are wonderfully engaged. with their students. Again, I find it hard. I find it hard to say because I obviously work here, but Ashley studied here, and hopefully what she's had to say has spoken to that in the best regard. Employment opportunities for international students. I may turn this one over to you as well, Ashley. I don't know if you worked while you were studying, if you're staying in Belfast now to work. How have you found employment opportunities? And obviously, this is seen through the lens of us being in the middle of a pandemic, but that is a very relevant piece of information because that is still going on. So how have you found employment opportunities?
Yeah, so when you're an international student, you can work 20 hours a week during term time. And then when you are finished your degree, you can work full time. So I believe the new student visa allows you to work here for 2 years, but correct me if I'm wrong. So I actually worked for a job in Canada while I was here. I had a remote role I did part-time. But I would say that out of my cohort, we did have people that were working pretty much right away after their degree. So I have a few friends who have now been sponsored. One works at a huge bank called Citibank, another's working at a consulting firm. I actually have an interview tomorrow, a final interview at Deloitte. So there are companies that will sponsor you and can sponsor you. I think it's important to know that Belfast is a smaller city, so with that comes less employers, but there are a lot of really big employers here too. So I would say it's hard for me to say because I've been here during the pandemic and I know that changes the job market a little bit. But I would say for those that network a lot while they're here, and that was something important to me, that's led to a lot of job interviews and opportunities. So depending on the industry you're in and what you want to do, I think it's a really good opportunity to come and live and stay in the UK for a while if you'd like. And you don't even necessarily have to stay in Belfast. You know, there's lots of other great places in the UK that it might lead you to. Yeah, and I mean, like the point you made is absolutely vital, is that you can actually, you know, you're allowed to go anywhere in the UK. Any student starting from kind of this September onwards has the opportunity, once they've finished, to apply for what is now the graduate visa route, which will give you 2 years to stay in the UK and go work anywhere. You don't have to stay in Belfast. Of course, we would love you to stay in Belfast, but you can go anywhere in the UK on that visa. I have to say a huge note of thanks to coming along the evening before a job interview to help us out with this. That is dedication, and somebody in the chat has said good luck. Then, yeah, it's an annual fee. So sort of yes to both parts of that question. I think that might actually be it for questions at this point. So if nobody has any more, I will leave it lingering in the air for a few seconds just in case they do. But if not, a huge thank you to all of my colleagues, to Gemma for being there in the background and frantically tapping away at those questions in the chat box. Thank you very much. To Professor McCall, thanks so much for your time and for talking us through the management school. Under the assumption you can still hear me, in which case great. And actually a huge thanks to you for giving up your time from all of us. Best of luck tomorrow, absolutely. And yes, thank you for joining us, to everybody in the audience. If you have any questions, you can email us at northamerica@qub.ac.uk. We'd be happy to help, and we will be sending around a recording, we'll be sending around slides. Just let us know if there's anything else we can do. But if not, enjoy the rest of your evenings, take care, and hopefully see you in Belfast at some point.